6 bottles in stock. Please don't order too many because I want to keep some. So I have another wine from the grape Chardonnay, and that is actually from New Zealand. So Chardonnay is grown widely outside. You can get Spanish Chablis or Chardonnay if you wanted. You could get an Italian Chardonnay if you wanted. California does a very famous style. The style of California is massive, rich, luscious, and full of oak. And you may have heard me discuss oak before. There are 2 types of oak. So you've got broadly. So you've got French oak or European oak, and that tends to be a savoury, nutty style. And then you've got American oak, which tends to be a vanilla, sweet brioche style. So if you ever notice on a table or on a label, American oak, you're thinking sweet, straight away vanilla. That is the flavour profile you're looking at. It has its place. Some people love it, some people don't like it. I don't mind it. If you see French barrels or French barriques, you're thinking savoury oak, and that has a more a savoury feeling or taste. And so you can also get Chardonnay in South Africa. There's some beautiful ones up along the coast, and you can get some in Australia. Australia got a terrible reputation. Australian Chardonnay is what put wine on the map in some ways, because it just, you understood it. You knew it was Chardonnay as opposed to Chablis, where I still get asked or told I like Chardonnay, or I like Chablis and I hate Chardonnay. They did this massive, big, oaky, sweet style right to the end of the spectrum, and then over the last 20 years they've brought it more to the middle, and you tend to get these absolutely beautiful ones. Also, what happened was they planted Chardonnay everywhere in not appropriate ones. The ground wasn't right for it, the soil wasn't right for it. Now it's like site selection, and so the best place to get it is Yarra Valley. So if you're going to go to Melbourne, or if you're ever in Australia, it's a really, really worthwhile trip. It's about an hour. I always get confused. Going towards Sydney. What is that, east or west?
East.
East. An hour east of Melbourne. You get to Yarra Valley, and it's like...
No, it's west, sorry.
West.
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 Sorry.
Go towards Sydney. So it's an hour west, and it's a real gastronomic capital. It's our area in Australia. The town, one of the towns is called Healesville. You get beautiful wines, and the Chardonnays there are exquisite. And even they're probably some of the best value high-end Chardonnays. So if you wanted to spend 15 or 20 euro on a Chardonnay, I'd spend it in Australia or New Zealand, because the value is so good, especially in that price point. So also, this is definitely not New Zealand, and I drew that without looking on the map, so it doesn't look like that. So you get Chardonnay in Marlborough, which is the top of the South Island. You also get some in Hawke's Bay. I have a beautiful one here. Brian Bricknell is the winemaker. He's just the loveliest guy. He's so nice. And this is his single vineyard Twin Valleys Chardonnay. I meant to read the back before we started.
Just in the meantime, Michelle, Guilfoyle May just wants to know, is there any online service like yours that delivers outside the Dublin area, just in Clare? We deliver?
Oh, we deliver nationwide, and it won't be, we use on post, so it's next day or 2 days. But
just to clear it up.
Yeah, definitely. No, we definitely do, so you can order online. So we do deliver nationwide. Now I can't see what that's aged in oak. I can't see which. Oh, French oak barriques. I'm going to bring this label up. So this is aged in French oak barriques, and it's such an elegant wine. It's one of my favourites. And we were debating, do we open the New Zealand wine or do we open the French one? And we thought we should open the French one. So you can see here it says French oak barriques. If everyone can see that.
A bit closer.
And so when it says that, you're straight up oak.
Over here, at the top. And then here. Can you manage it? French
oak barriques.
Yeah.
There we go. If you're looking for an unoaked style, it'll know, except for France, it will say it. And another point to note about Chablis or Chardonnay is that the more expensive it is, the more likely it's an oak, because oak costs money, and so that's just what cranks up the price. So if a Chardonnay is not very expensive, the chances are it's had little or no oak in it. They do a thing which is with the dead yeast cells. So after the grapes or the sugar is converted to alcohol, there's like little dead yeast cells. They're called lees. Sometimes the wine is left on the lees and they give it a little stir. So what you get out of that is a bit of texture, but without the kind of oaky flavour. So you get a creamy mouthfeel. And I think I'm finished.
Yeah, good old rant there. You
And a
love
good
Chardonnay.
old Chardonnay rant.
Well, tell us a story about Chardonnay, Michelle.
A story about Chardonnay.
Did you remember the one
Oh,
when you
God.
were working? Yeah.
I have the worst Chardonnay story. I had bought, there was a vintage, it's a 2015 vintage, and I never buy wine to invest because I just drink it, like it's an ultimate fail. I've tried a couple of times, this is another example of it, but I bought 6 bottles of a Grand Cru Chardonnay. It was supposed to be the best one of the region, and it was a Chassagne. I can't remember the full name of it, it's brutal. Anyway, I managed to get 6 bottles of it, I was delighted, and it was in the warehouse, but it was my own purchase, and I was going away for a week, and I said to the girl, the stock lady, now when you put all the wine, make sure all the wines go online, because there's a few wines that need to go up on the website. This is 5 years ago when I worked in Hong Kong, and she put everything up, but in that week, I don't know what are the chances, she put up my lovely box of €150 bottle Chardonnay for €35 a bottle and sold 4 of them. So when I came back, I was like, where's my wine? I had a meltdown. She put it up as the wrong wine. Chardonnay is so complicated, the label was so complicated, she tried to find it, she was trying to do a good job, and
Nightmare.
it was a nightmare. Anyway, so I called all the customers, I was nearly crying, and I said, look, I know you got this delivery, that wine's actually was mine, it shouldn't have been sold, it was the wrong one, is it still there? And 2 of them had drunk it, one of them didn't even like it, they thought it was awful, because it was a really young, expensive, like it needed 10 years to be ready. And another guy had it and I nearly cried, and got it back. But anyway, there you go. So that's my Chardonnay story. I love Chardonnay, it's just a fabulous grape. It takes practice, you need to taste loads of them.
Maeve also asked a little while ago about alternatives. So what would be nice alternatives to Chardonnay?
Nice alternative to Chardonnay. God, that's a really good question. God, you stumped me. A nice alternative. If you're still watching, what do you like about Chardonnay? If you tell me what you like about Chardonnay, I'll be able to tell you a good alternative. Chardonnay is such a varied style. It's very difficult to name one alternative. I know that's a terrible answer, I'm very sorry.
That's alright.
If you like, okay.
Sorry, it's the world's most expensive wine.
Yeah, well, the red wine.
I suppose the area is in general.
The area is in general, but when you're looking at...
So why is it so highly sought after then?
Supply and demand makes it very expensive, so it's a tiny area. There's not as much, there's a lot of people want it because it's so exclusive, and they're quite limited productions, and they're small fields really. They're not like when you're in the likes of Australia or Chile or New Zealand, when you've got huge fields. A lot of this land was owned historically, and there was a rule called the Napoleonic rule, which was that that Napoleon put into place, when a father died, he had to split the land equally between his any male heirs. So, you know, if the father has a field this size and then he splits it in 2 between his 2 sons, then the field gets to that size, legally obligated. And then when this guy, if he passes away and he has 3 sons, then the fields become this size, and then if this guy, you know, has 3 sons, then all of a sudden the fields become this size, and so you've got a really, really fragmented area. Arguably, the area of Burgundy is the best place for Chardonnay. It makes the best, certainly the Burgundy winemakers or Vigneron will tell you that. And the style, I mean, it's a historical style. It's very hard to emulate. You can get some very expensive Chardonnay in Napa, in California. But that would this is the area for it really, and it's beautiful. You also get supply and demand, and I worked in Asia for years, the Chinese market loves it, and so you've got a tiny area, and a lot of people want it.
Shirley Collins has asked you, it's a lovely top you've got there. What's
Oh, thank you. This is Mel de Para. I love it.
Very good, very good, very good. Maeve is mad for the wines. Maeve was asking again, rich flavour, when it's not acidic and when I can drink independent of food, I love wine with food. Don't get me wrong, but I would love that Chardonnay to be without food too. I'm no wine expert. But I tell you, do you know what? Some wines are just for drinking, really.
Some wines are just for drinking. You could try things like a Vermentino, if you ever see a wine. So this is from Corsica, and it's also from Bulgari, and that's got kind of like that. It can be done with a bit of leaves. You can have it with a bit of oak. It's got that crisp freshness. It's also got the creamy mouthfeel. I'm trying to have a think. God, I can't believe how stumped I am by it. I think it's because there's so many styles of Chardonnay. I think if you like something that's lightly oaked, and you can find a lot of lovely stuff in, I think New Zealand and Australia, you'll probably find that lovely style because they tend to be now very elegant and very good value for money.
Very good. Okay, I think that's...
Time's up, is it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Have a little drink for yourself.
Oh, I was going to do one thing. Sorry, I was going to show you that when you've got a lovely, like a high-end white wine, there's no problem to decant it. So I'm going to just decant this. And what you do is you just aerate it.
I just put my glass out there.
Oh, come on, I'll give you some more.
Good girl.
Can I?
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. And so what we do is, if we're having something fancy, which isn't that often, this is going to sound like we're peasants here, we'll actually put it in a bowl and put ice in the bowl. And so sit the decanter in a bowl of ice to keep it cool. And it's actually a lovely experience. Makes you feel fancier than you are. So there you go. It smells lovely. I won't drink out of this.
Chardonnay, just to finish up, I suppose, there's a big thing where I know people have kind of very heavily switched over to Sauvignon as a thing. And there's nothing wrong with any of that.
That all started, that was a combination of Cloudy Bay and a couple of other wineries, but it was a real kind of knee-jerk reaction to the very sweet, very vanilla Australian Chardonnays, where it was a move to something that was crisp and lean and not oaked and not sweet really. And so then Sauvignon just ran with it. Then after that, you ended up in a world where it was Pinot Grigio. And I feel like at the minute, certainly the Irish palate has even moved beyond Pinot Grigio and love exploring new wines. Like Albarino is huge. Picpoul is quite a well-known wine. Some Rueda. There's loads of different things out there. I'm really sorry for this girl Maeve because I was just stumped. We'll just leave it.
But talk to her on the phone.
You can send me a private message and I'll get you some recommendations. Send me a private message. Is that good night?
Cheers, everybody.